I'm going to be there at 2 o'clock. I can announce that we got comfortable with a security plan last night for my client. She's going to attend at 2 o'clock on Monday. I think Monday afternoon could prove to be very interesting.
Stormy Daniels is going to be in court on Monday with Michael Cohen. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, she will attend.
As you heard it there, Stormy Daniels' attorney confirming his client will be at tomorrow's court hearing here in New York City. The hearing was called for by a U.S. federal judge to determine whether to grant a temporary restraining order requested by Michael Cohen's legal team. They're seeking to stop prosecutors from reviewing materials seized during the FBI's raid of Cohen's office earlier this week. This morning, President Trump weighed in, of course, tweeting, "Attorney-client privilege is now a thing of the past." Joining me now, Nancy Erika Smith on my panel, a labor and employment litigation lawyer. She's also the attorney of former Fox News anchor Gretchen Carlson, and Kwame Jackson, former contestant on The Apprentice and president of Kwame Incorporated. That's quite an original name.
Yes.
Nancy, I'm going to start with you on this one. Yes. Talk to me about Stormy Daniels' appearance in court tomorrow afternoon. I mean, this is literally just sort of a show for the public. She's going to be sitting in the public area of this court.
Well, we have public courtrooms in this country, I'm really happy to say, because it's important that justice be meted out in public in America. And she has a right to be there. She certainly has a relationship with him. He apparently paid her $130,000 on his own, not acting as a lawyer, so it's not attorney-client privilege, because Trump said he didn't even know about it. Your lawyer doesn't act without you knowing about it. They might be good friends, and Trump might be a third-party beneficiary, but she has a right to be there.
Well, what does this do for, let's say, if Stormy was your client? Is this something that you would advise her to do?
I'm a little more
I mean, this is definitely for the
low-key.
Television cameras, you got to admit.
Yes. I don't do a lot for the cameras, but you know what? It's moving the country in a good direction in terms of showing. If we are paying people not to say things about the president, that's wrong. That should be against the public policy. We shouldn't be allowed to pay people to shut up about the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Period.
Daniel, you're from the Southern District of New York, obviously. What do you think about this temporary restraining order that Cohen's lawyers have asked for in trying to keep them from moving forward with the things that were obtained in the Cohen raid on his office and his home last week? Where do you think it's going to go?
I don't think it's going anywhere.
No.
I think the judge is absolutely going to deny it. A couple of things. First of all, this is the usual course of action that this office and every office across the country take on a regular basis when they meet the very high standard of getting a search warrant to seize materials from a lawyer. Michael Cohen may be the president's lawyer to some extent, ish, as Saturday Night Live says, but he's still just a lawyer, and they went through the proper protocols. The interesting thing about this, which came out last week, I found, is that in the government's response to the motion for a temporary restraining order, they point out that they've already obtained email search warrants. So they're already reviewing Michael Cohen's emails pursuant to this privilege review process that they outlined. And so it's almost as if the horse is out of the barn and they're trying to close the barn door after everybody's gone. This is already going forward. A judge has already authorized this. And just remember, this is not the prosecutors making the decision as to whether something is privileged or not. As the government said, they will not turn anything over to the investigative team, which is separate from the privilege team, until a judge authorizes it. So this is going to be authorized and overseen by a neutral judge. And so I think this temporary restraining order motion is dead in the water.
Congress, what about the reports that there are recordings that Michael Cohen had in his office that are now sort of in the possession of the FBI post-raid? I mean, first of all, is this sort of out of the norm for a lawyer to have recordings with their client, first and foremost? And secondly, does the president have a point that now attorney-client privilege is dead, or is this kind of a fear factor?
There is nothing out of the norm with this administration, its lawyers, or anybody around. This is their norm. You know, this reminds me, one of my favorite shows on television was yours, but also that show, Breaking Bad. You remember that show? And there was this one scene where, remember that? Right. And there's this one scene where, the main character is talking to somebody else, and he has legal problems, and the other guy says, if you have, when the going gets tough, you don't need a criminal lawyer. You need a criminal lawyer. Now, I'm not saying that anybody is a criminal lawyer, but it's clear that the federal government and others believe that Michael Cohen has certain materials that are worth investigating. We should also remind everybody that it was a Republican Deputy Attorney General, a Republican U.S. Attorney, who thought that this was so compelling that there should be the acquisition of these materials. And the attorney-client privilege, much to my mother's shame, I never went to law school, but my understanding is the attorney-client privilege does not protect suspected crimes by an attorney. And so the government is pursuing its interest in the public interest in this
Or
matter.
even by a client. Yes. The attorney-client privilege does not protect crime or fraud by a client. If, assuming Trump was a client with the Stormy Daniels or with the Prague or whatever else was going on with Cohen.
Sounds like the Better Call Saul defense.
Yeah, right.
Someone getting policy from the
We are.
So Nancy obviously bringing up the fact that she believes that the president knew exactly what Cohen was doing when he paid off Stormy Daniels and the other Playboy star that was paid off as well. What's your take on that, Kwame?
Yeah, my take is that this is a classic movement into that Hollywood realm. This is, Stormy Daniels' attorney has outmaneuvered Trump in the Hollywood media hype P.T. Barnum game. And essentially, what he's doing by placing Stormy Daniels firmly in the courtroom is creating almost like a KGB honey trap, except it's reversed. So essentially, Stormy Daniels is there to stump Michael Cohen's whole personality, to stump his thought process, to get him to slip up and to be a little bit more nervous and hopefully get a little bit more out of him. But also to say, we're watching you, we're on top of this, and we're going to push you into something that you might not want to say.
Could I jump in here for a second? Because I think Michael Avenatti has done a brilliant job as a PR lawyer.
Yes, he has.
I think he's going a little too far with this. I know that judge very well. I had a trial in front of her. I appeared in front of her for 10 years. She's not going to appreciate this sideshow. And Stormy Daniels has no vested interest in this particular motion. She obviously is related to the broader issue. But this is about whether Michael Cohen's materials can be reviewed by the government in a criminal investigation. It has nothing to do with her case. Yeah. And I think this is going a little bit too far with the PR act.
I was just going to say, I think Avenatti is actually giving President Trump a run for his money with regards to
that's what I think. I think that they're playing Trump's game. Yeah. Remember, Trump invited all of Bill Clinton's.
Yes. Of course, we've seen this before.
Hillary Clinton invited Mark Cuban to try and rattle Trump, which I'm still trying to figure that strategy out.
All right, Nancy, Erika Smith, and Daniel Goleman, thank you to you both for joining us. The rest are sticking with me.
Okay.